Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new year. That's right. It is 2025 here on Hotline League, and we are hype to ring in the new year here on the 6th, I guess, so almost like a week later. But regardless, it's going to be a really fun one. There's a video on behind Kangas. I don't know what's going on there.
That's supposed to be the league run, or not league rundown, the Snowdown.
It's a Halo 3
1
video.
hour loop. Now it's Halo 3. Well, you know what? It was good intentions. Here
The
we go. Now
show's
it's going to be the Snowdown 2015 login theme. This is my ad to Riot to bring back Snowdown, everybody. We need to bring it back. Give us the winter map.
I'm sorry, folks. We're going to have to just go to 2026 now because the start of the show has gotten so derailed.
Great start.
Intro too. Yeah.
Yeah. I see a bunch of subs over on YouTube, or actually mostly on Twitch, but thanks everybody for doing that. It's been nice. If you are listening to the show after the fact, maybe consider going over and dropping a Prime sub if you haven't. We have lost hundreds of subs during the holiday break because that's what happens whenever you don't stream for 2 weeks. Anyway, we got some really fun stuff going on tonight's episode because we're going to be asking all of you what your hopes, dreams, and aspirations are for 2025. And if you have a different take than that, you can call in for sure. But this is really going to be looking forward at the new year. We always have one of these at the beginning of every year, and happy to do it this year. But before we get into that, let me go ahead and introduce Cubby, who's joining us as a co-host. As always, Cubby, how's it going?
I'm good. It was a nice holiday. Excited to get back to Hotline League and hear what everyone's wish list is for 2025.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me a little bit about your holiday break. What did you get up to?
So in my family, during the holidays, it's nice when we get everyone at home. I have a sister who works the news, so she got to work remote, which is great. And it's pretty much just all about good food. So we had plenty of good food. We had some beef tenderloin for Christmas dinner with like a basil mayo that I love and look forward to every year. And yeah, that's pretty much all we do is kind of sit around, visit, and eat. So
you play any video games? Did you watch any movies? Did you do?
Oh,
you had 2 weeks. How did you spend it? Hopefully, mostly as a vacation. I don't know. Maybe you were working on something I don't know about. But
I have one project in the tank that should be fun when I publish it. But no, most of my time was spent. Let's see. I went through The Diplomat, which is a Netflix show. It was okay. I believe Kerry Russell was up for an award. I will keep watching in season 3 because Allison Janney is going to have a big role, and she's fantastic. What else did I watch? I finished up House of Cards. I didn't watch season 6. I was told to skip it. Well, I feel like I watched one other show that I binged, but I am blanking on it, so it must not have been very special.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't bring my computer home, so I pretty much just put on Netflix and ran on the elliptical, which is in front of the TV, and I watched a lot of football. So it was great. I worked out a lot at home. I was bored.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually kind of nice to be bored every now and then. I felt a moment of boredom towards the end of the break, and I was like, I don't feel like I have felt boredom in multiple years, so it was kind of nice, and I got a lot of different stuff done. Mostly I played a lot of Balatro. I played so much Balatro. I played too much Balatro, and it worked really well because yesterday, the last day of my self-imposed holiday break, I beat the gold stake, and so I was like, okay, we'll now end on this. Also started and finished Stormlight Archive 5, so that was really cool. Mark and I did a video about it, and then for some reason, the audio on the 2 lavs that we have is out of sync and like becomes desynced over time. Like I don't know what happened there, but something weird happened. So I have to see if I can find an audio expert to fix it. If anybody's an audio expert, reach out to me. Go ahead.
Did go through a bookstore with my folks and was able to point out that it pointed out Brandon Sanderson was like, yeah, Travis interviews this guy and like did cons for him because his books were like front and center at a few of the bookstores he went through, which is
would
nice.
Have enjoyed the story more if you're like, I went to the bookstore and was able to pick up a
bought
Brandon
book
Sanderson
1
novel.
I'm tempted. If I do that, it'll be audiobooks, and I do have a car trip coming up, which will be about 14 hours total in March.
Okay.
But so it might be on the target for that.
For 14 hours.
He's planting the seed for the family. Now all of his family's going to buy the books. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spreading it out.
Anyway, let's just move on to Kangas. Kangas, welcome to the show. How was your break? What did you get up to? I know you were doing a Yu-Gi-Oh thing at some point in time, but I don't know how recent that was.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Always happy to be back on. Yeah, the Yu-Gi-Oh thing was earlier in the month. There's something called YCSs, which are Yu-Gi-Oh Championship Series. It's just the road show. There's one like every month or two. So there's one to kick off the month, and that was a lot of fun. But then when I was back home, yeah, I mean, kind of like Cubby, just a lot of like binge watching stuff. Netflix. Netflix is like the king of the new Christmas movies, like the shitty Christmas movies that you watch and you forget that they even existed.
The Lindsay
Netflix
Lohan
has so
one.
many of those.
The Lindsay Lohan one from this year was actually fantastic.
I didn't watch that one.
It was good.
I watched one called Hot Frosty. Have you heard about that? It's about a Frosty the Snowman that's hot and just comes to life, and it's like this girl in a small town that then like falls in love with his hot Frosty the Snow. They're trash movies, but a very fun way to just hang out with your family. I was staying with my sister the whole time, but I surprised my whole family. Only my sister knew I was coming back, so I got to like jump out on Christmas Day and surprise the nieces and nephews and stuff, which was really cool. So yeah, I had a blast.
That is very, very cool. Well, look, we're going to keep chatting a little bit about our own stuff, but I'll say right now we don't have too many takes, so if you've been trying to get on the show for a while, tonight is a very good night to get on the show. Cubby, do you want to explain how this works?
Yeah, if you guys want to join, I believe the topic for this week's episode is 2025 hopes and aspirations for League and Riot-related stuff.
Predictions work too.
Like maybe you just want to share your resolution. Who knows?
Looking towards the next year, this next year, you know, what do you want? What are your hopes and dreams for LTA? What are your expectations? What, you know, any type of stuff like that.
Yeah, so discord.gg/Travis, if that sounds like fun, you can call on in and you can put your topics once you join the Discord and either pleb or subtopics. I'll read through them all. And if your take's good, we'll drag you into the waiting room and you can come on the show and talk with us. So we only have one in the tank so far. So if people want to call on in and,
can I put one in? Am I allowed? I've never actually done that before.
Well, I think we usually reserve the beginning of the show for us to jibber jabber about stuff. So
we have time to take a call.
Yeah, your Halo 3 ad is back on again. I don't know what's going on.
Damn it! Why is it doing that? Okay, you know what? We might just turn the TV off.
But I appreciate it regardless.
Boom! I threw in my topic. There we go. That's what I want to talk about.
But yeah, make sure that you join one of the channels so that we can pull you into the waiting room. And yeah, should be a pretty good episode. Again, we're going to be looking for folks on the show tonight. So if you haven't called in before, please go ahead and put your take in because it's the beginning of the year. It's a quieter show. People are still remembering that League of Legends eSports exists as they're coming out of their holiday stupor. And so we'd love to have your takes on the show. But now we can spend a little bit of time talking about our own stuff and what we're trying to do in the coming year. Cubby, you know, what have you been up to? What are your plans for 2025? I saw you post a little bit today about how you're expanding your horizons a little bit in the new year.
Yeah. So pretty much I've been really lucky to do esports full time for the last 3 years now, but just with what next year looks like and like the roles that I have as talent, it's looking like it won't be full time for me, which is fine. I've known this for a while. I just didn't tweet it out until now. So I've spent some of the break. I should have spent much more time actually in the full-time job hunt. So I have a marketing major with a digital marketing minor. I worked in startup world before COVID hit, and I've lost my job during COVID and then started to pursue this. So it's looking like I'm going to have to go back to what some of the early casters and broadcasters did, which is work full-time and then do this on the side. So yeah, my commitment to League and the show and everything else, it really hasn't changed, but maybe the commitment to my own channel, we'll see if it changes, just based on whatever work I find. But yeah, looking for work, and we'll see what 2025 has in store for me.
Yeah.
Kangas, well, for you, man. I know it's been tough because like we've talked about that a lot of just how difficult it is to be full-time broadcasting in esports right now, especially in like the tier 2 league scene. Yeah. It's difficult to move up as well, but
I mean, pretty much like for me too. If you want to do this, you got to be in other games. But I've never really had a passion or pursued other games. I hit GM playing League. I was like high diamond and played for a college team and co-founded stuff and coached. Like I don't have that experience trying other game. And while I feel like I'm good enough as talent to do it, I just don't really have the motivation to. So I've only ever really wanted to do League, and yeah, I am looking at full-time work. So.
It's also tough for the role because we've also had this conversation. Being a color caster or analyst, you really have to be a subject matter expert in the game itself. Harder to transfer that to other games unless you have an interest in the other game or something like that. So,
yeah. Again,
yeah.
like the experience I have for this, I mean, I am a shit gamer. I was only ever good at League because I put a lot of time into it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what this new year takes you, and if anybody out there is looking for a talented young lad who has marketing certifications and is very familiar with League of Legends esports, then Cubby's got you. How about you, Kangas? What are you looking forward to this year?
2025 is looking to be a good year for me. I can't talk about everything that's coming up, but I already have contracts signed and kind of my schedule figured out for the year as to what work's going to look like ahead of me. So yeah, I feel blessed that I still have the opportunity to stick around and do the esports thing full time, because it's harder and harder as the years go on, especially if you're not able to diversify into multiple games. But thankfully, I've been able to do a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh shows with Konami this last year, and that's only been ramping up as the years have gone. So yeah, I'm excited for what 2025 has in store. What about you, Travis? What do you have for 2025?
Oh boy. Well, so next week is Asset Day. So we head over, Drew and I will head over and start interviewing all the LTA players. I actually need to submit. Ooh, that reminds me. I need to submit my request for players and teams and all that stuff. And who I want to talk to. It is really interesting seeing like the sign up form come through and see the different teams that are on there and the teams that aren't and all the different players and all that type of stuff. Like we really start to kick off right now. Well, I guess I should say maybe in the next week or so. So figuring that out. And then, man, just figuring out the new season is interesting because, for instance, earlier Numi put into one of the chats, somebody was asking about like, hey, what are dates for tickets and all that type of stuff for the LTA? And it's very surreal because right now LTA North tickets, you can buy them and there's 3 days listed as available, which are Saturday, January 25th, Sunday, January 26th, and then Sunday, February 9th, which I think means those are the only days in which maybe one of them sold out. I don't know, but like, I think those are the only days in which you can go watch in person for the next like 2 months, because the opening weekend is not in the is in the arena. Then the next weekend is in the closet, and then I guess after that we have one more week, and then we go off to Brazil for 2 weeks to do sort of the end of the tournament type thing before we get into the Korea event. So it'll just be interesting to see how people take all this, and it's just a wildly different thing for somebody like myself who since 2013, so what, 12 years now basically, I've been showing up at the LCS arena at the beginning of the beginning of the year in late January, and then I'm there all the way through April. It is very strange to see the weirdness around the new schedule and everything. So I'm hopeful that this will be really hype and that people will get excited to get into like this fun little mini tournament that they do before we get into, I guess they don't call it spring, they now call it split 2 because of the fact that hemispheres have different seasons, as Mark always loves to point out to me. But it'll be interesting to see how all this goes through, because it's wildly different for me than it has been in any other year.
Yeah, it is. Winter split does feel odd. And I'm curious, because Travis, you've been around since the beginning. How many format changes have you gone through? It's got to be like 4 or 5 format changes.
Well,
it's got to be 5 plus.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you think about it. Like, for the most part, there haven't really been any format changes like this, right? Like, yeah, maybe it'll be like,
that's true.
For the most part, we've had 2 splits, and those 2 splits have been anywhere from like 6 weeks long every now and then to mostly around like 9 weeks, and then you end up with like 3 or 4 weeks of playoffs. And there's been times where they did like the kickoff tournament, right, which was lock-in. They did that for 2 years. But for the most part, it has been 2 splits, 2 tournaments, a spring and a summer finals, or championships, I should say, instead of tournaments, and then straight into either MSI or Worlds. So, you mentioned that I've gone through a lot of format changes, but to me, it feels like I've gone through none compared to what we're doing this year, which is just very different. So
that's fair. I 100% agree with that. This is the biggest change that we've ever seen for the league. I don't think there's any doubt in that.
Yeah.
Like besides franchising, but the format didn't really change a whole lot.
No, yeah, the format was
formalized
basically
academy.
We went from 8 teams to 10 teams for between year 1 and year 2 of LCS.
Yep.
And that was a pretty big change. And then obviously the recent years where we went from 10 to 2, or in some cases 20 to 10 or whatever, depending on if you include the minor league teams. That was very different. But yeah, there's been nothing like this ever. And, I was trying to figure out if I was going to Brazil or not. And ultimately, I just think it's pretty expensive. And on top of that, I have a buddy's wedding, so I would have had to miss the first weekend. And then, so it's going to be strange to cover this year. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited for all these international events, and I'm excited to see what North versus South means. But it does make it sort of challenging to figure out how to cover it. So
my concern, and I don't want to start immediately on a negative.
No, it's fine.
There's a lot of positives to talk about too, but my concern is that changing the format, and ES is the biggest format change, but the schedule and best of 1s versus best of 3s, we've changed a lot consistently over the years, and now this is such a big change, and I still feel like I worry that we might lose more viewership just because of that, just because people don't know what to Google search, they don't know where to find the schedule, they don't know what's happening anymore, because losing the LCS branding, I felt like there was still a lot of strength in that branding, and now just changing that to LTA alone would have been a big change, but now we're factoring in as well, it's a different format too. So I'm like, whew, all right, I think that we got our work cut out for us in the first couple of weeks going into the first split to really get the word out there that it's happening and where to watch it and where to support it and all that stuff.
This is something that we've even experienced, Steve, because we changed brands a couple times with Academy and the channels that we were on. The secondary channel went from NA Academy 2 to Path to LCS to NACL 2 or something. It changed every year. And we always, I'd say that our audience is a lot more diehards that are more likely to follow along than the bigger league that's gonna attract a lot more casual audience. But we definitely saw a drop off for that, and it's only gonna have a bigger effect with the more casual audience right off the bat. So that's something where I think it's a valid concern. I'm still really hopeful that all the changes to the ecosystem provide for different ways of entertainment and different rivalries and teams and more people involved, kind of casting a wider net, just having less teams and less leagues. So I'm hopeful, but there's definitely going to be a couple of growing pains. So
to your point, and this was just pointed out by Colesworthy in the chat. If you Google LEC schedule, you immediately get the Google created custom chart that has the whole schedule through February 3rd. If you search LTA schedule, you get a Google AI thing that's the Lawn Tennis Association has multiple schedules, including tennis tournaments, wheelchair tennis competitions, and the League of Legends Championship of the Americas. So apparently the LTA is part of the Lawn Tennis Association now. Google AI as
gamers are down horrendous.
Well, it is a brand new name change, so eventually the algorithm will pick up on it. But that's very funny.
Yeah, but I do think that I've always thought that Riot feeds some sort of schedule to the Google feed, uses some API or something like that, so that Google.
I thought it came from the Riot website.
So I think that's, to your point, Kangas. Here, we'll turn the negative into a positive, because I agree. I don't want the year to start by. It is an exciting opportunity for Riot to hopefully very soon start, making sure that people are aware of the new schedule and the new brand, and explaining to people what the LTA is and all these types of things. Because
what didn't happen, Travis, for what a wish that I already had for this year.
What's that?
I believe the eSports team doesn't have their own schedule and it's still on corporate Riot schedule. And so they are getting off of their break, which is all fine and dandy. I just always thought that their break should be built around the esports schedule and not corporate Riot schedule, which has like
I see what you're saying. Like
July 4th break.
Riot eSports, Riot eSports. This was the first day back for folks that work in Riot eSports since. I think their last day was the 20th. Yeah. I want to say.
Riot always gives a holiday break. They give a summer break. I think that's great. It should be normalized. I just always didn't like that it wasn't different for esports because this is a competitive schedule. You have breaks built in. And you can line up the breaks there. So that's all.
Yeah, they definitely. I mean, look, another positive for the LTA is that because we start 1 week later than everybody else, hopefully we have more time to get people to be aware of the fact that we're starting, which I thought.
Also, I believe that they have been back for like the past week or part of it. I know that there was a shoot that went on.
I think they've been doing some stuff, so it's not like
there's definitely stuff in the tank because I know people that were involved with the shoot. So
Well, I'm excited to see what comes together for this year, but I think it's time for us to hop into some calls. We do have 4 calls, maybe 3 to maybe 4 in the tank. So if folks, we've got a room for a couple more if folks want to put their take in. And as always, by the way, I'll tell you that there's a lot of people who will comment on YouTube and they'll be like, I can't believe you didn't talk about this. Or, wow, these takes were all too positive, or these takes were all too negative. Listen, folks, I promise you, we pull from your takes. So if there's something you feel passionately that you want us to talk about on the show, not guaranteed, but I saw that a little bit with the Arcane episode where people are like, you guys were just glazing this dude. And I'm like, look, folks, that's because the people who called in were glazing him. So if you feel strongly about something, we'll try to bring you on the show. All right. Do you want to go ahead and grab our first? Oh, you know what? Really quickly, I do want to give a shout out to NZXT for sponsoring the show. I'm rusty. They should have done that at the start of the show. We'll talk more about them later, but shout out NZXT. All right.
Use Travis's code, by the way. I did, and my PC is awesome. So
nice. Thank you, Kangas.
Definitely weren't having software issues before the show.
Hey, okay, I don't think that was the PC's fault.
Well, it was not. It was not. It was on
me.
I'm actually helping.
The mysterious liquids on your keyboard.
I'm helping set up an NZXT computer tomorrow that used discount code Travis. So anyway.
Nice. I think I know who that is. All right.
Yeah, it's not mine. So
Cody goes to grab the next caller. Okay. Our first caller, I should say, of the year. While Cubby's doing that, thank you so much to we got a lot of people that subbed. Thanks everybody for coming back to sub to the channel. Sixella, Numigos Rars, Nuclei, Ian7J2, Swede for 2 years. Big Angry Hobo gifted a sub. MBT, another sub from Big Angry Hobo. Hurt Rune, Bernie's Left Nut, Fool on a Hill, Cubby, thank you, Cubby. Carpezy, Juju Beans, pyroscorcher, Spud Tugger, Glimmer Glen, Big Angry Hobo, Immortal Scrub, Shonatonin, Goat Cheese Please, Air Hydras, Kanoke, and then over on YouTube, I'd be remiss if I didn't get our folks over on YouTube. LeaderJoe, Jacob Randall, Brooksy gifted 5, thank you. Poison Ivy, Big Angry Hobo, and Cesarles. I hope I'm saying your right name. Is it Charles? Either way, thank you so much. We got Trespasser here. Trespasser, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Downey, California.
Downey, California. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is LTA hasn't really been doing enough to promote the LTA North. I didn't really know tickets were on sale till yesterday. I tried searching up LCS tickets. Well, that wouldn't work, but I feel like...
Did you search LCS tickets? Is that what you said? Or did you search
I searched LCS tickets originally, and then I didn't see anything, so I was like, okay, they're not on sale yet. And then I was like, it's like double checking to make sure, like, what if they, I want to make sure they're not like sold out before the time I get them. So I went on the LTA like Twitter, and then I was like trying to scroll through Twitter. I couldn't find like a tweet that was like, tickets are on sale now. I'm like, okay, that's weird. So I went through your link tree, but I saw like tickets were on sale through Linktree, and I'm like, okay. So I got through there, but I still think that's kind of bad.
Oh yeah, they haven't even put out like a tweet about it yet. You said you Googled LCS tickets though. What if you Googled LTA tickets? Let's find out.
Yeah.
Lawn Tennis Association. Okay.
Oh my God, that is the first one.
Okay, but if you scroll down to the fourth one, and I'm Googling it incognito. it is the fourth thing if you search LTA North. So like it does pop up in a Google search if you had searched LTA instead of LCS, right? Trespasser.
Mm-hmm. And I'm on the LTA North Twitter right now, and the tweet is kind of there, but it's in the replies of one of their tweets. So it's not like a direct tweet. It's like, tickets are on sale now.
Yeah,
It's a
they like
reply.
replied to. I see what you're saying.
We just posted that in chat.
Yeah, get your tickets now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, what would you like to see them do instead? I guess is the question, Trespasser.
I don't know. Just like tweet something. Like LCS died for this. I feel like this is pretty. I don't know, basic stuff.
Trespasser, would you have liked it better if the LTA North Conference was just known as LCS and the South Conference was known as CBLOL?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
But we
on
all.
The bright side,
I feel like we all know that, right? Like that. I think that is not a. That seems to be the common consensus, you know.
Let me sell this, Travis. On the bright side, we now have new logos for both of those leagues, and you can combine them, and they make the LTA logo overall.
Ooh,
huge fresco.
And, you know, for a trade-off, as far as trade-offs go,
I think the logo is pretty cool. I will say.
Look, I know you're being sarcastic a little bit, but my goal.
He's got a marketing degree.
Here's my thing. I had while we're on the topic of LCS versus LTA, I just decided at a certain point in time that I can't spend the next 12 months bitching about the fact that this is called LTA instead of LCS. So I'm trying to at least embrace it. Like, what's done is done. They've made this decision. I talked multiple times, including in my end of the year video, talking about how I felt this was maybe the worst decision of last year. But now we're here, and so it's time to accept that we're moving into an LTA world. And I'm not saying I'm going to shy away from talking about the ramifications of that if it ends up being good or bad. But for the time being, we are LTA North in 2025.
And our logo looks like a stealth bomber, and theirs looks like a warden. So win for LTA North.
And to the caller's point, I think that, yes, Riot and the LTA team, what I would like to see them do is lean more into that fun of like, yes, we've changed. Yes, here's the information, like, and just kind of over publicize it. Kind of like they did live on show. If you remember, every time they would have like, we're going to be on Friday next week. Live on broadcast, they would like make a bit out of like really hammering in that they were going to be on Friday. I think that they could do something like that with this too, of like really hammer in, this is when we're starting, this is where to buy tickets. I know everything's new, I know everything's different, and like change is scary, but like it's going to be okay. And we haven't really gotten that. So I do think that there's benefit towards, you know, publicizing more and just shouting out more on socials, on videos and stuff like that of what the changes are and when things are happening.
My guess is that we get that all coming up here, like in the next week.
Like again, the holiday break really makes things awkward. For the team.
They've rebranded everything, which is a hell of a lift, I will say. But yeah, my guess is that like we get actual formal announcements coming out the next week or two. So hopefully it's good. I know that like with Riot's schedule, I never expect anything to happen over Christmas, which is fine. And hopefully this stuff gets exciting and gets people hyped up for the new league and a new spot and a new location. So,
but I think it is fair to say that we're like, look, this thing starts in 2 weeks, a little bit over 2 weeks, and you know, I do wish that they had more stuff prepared, like starting now. And I know we'll get a lot of that next week, but I think, you know, and we've talked about this in many years. When Mark was on the show, we talked about this. Like traditional sports, I feel like start their marketing machine a month in advance. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Cubby, you're the T Sports guy here, but I feel like you start getting ads about football long before it starts, right?
And the marketing machine never ends. And that's my problem with what they do with off season is that December is just like the most dead month on the planet for League. There's like, unless you're a fan of Demacia Cup, which is a great event that the LPL does, like that's literally fucking it. They had tier 1 competitive stuff.
They had over in Europe. They had like all the K.
They did the show matches at K Corp stuff. That's cool. Yeah. Los Britanos is like everyone started scrims now, and they like again December is just there are no dead months in any traditional sport. Even in the months where they are not playing, There's off-season news and stuff that can carry you through those times. December for me always feels like a dead month.
Well, this year it definitely felt
November
like the quietest.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I think in the past there was more going on in North America, but yeah. Trespasser, what's up? Oh, Kangas. Sorry.
Wasn't there like a little tweet or from like the NBA with like Arcane, so like the collaboration thing in December?
Well, I think it was
with the NFL, and that was in an absolute mix of church and state for me. I did not like that one.
I saw that and I was like, that's terrible. Like this is so bad.
That's like, for me, league and football are like, that's my church and state. I needed to stay separate. So that crossover was just I actually got mad.
But that has less to do with what we're talking about now, right? Because
yeah, I don't know whose money like went into that. I really don't. It could have been Netflix for all we know. Yeah,
Netflix or I don't know, maybe some sort of trade. Who knows? But yeah, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Also, I don't really know what I'm going to be doing on the day 1 and 2. Like, it says TBD versus TBD. Like, for like me, it's like as a standard LCS fan, like I would assume like I'm coming from the split where it's like the best of ones. Like each like 10 teams are playing on the day where it's like. So now I'm just like, what is this like TBD?
Well, it's because it's best of 3s, right? So I'm assuming that the second series, it's to be determined when it's going to start. Like, there's not a hard start time. Is that what you're reading? I'm not looking at what.
I think Trespasser's saying that he doesn't know what teams are playing even.
Yeah, like what? I didn't know it was going to be a best of 3. I didn't know like what teams are playing. Like I don't know any of that information.
Well, it's also fearless, so that's going to be fun.
yeah. So.
Yeah, I think that is fair. Like. One of the things that I think is probably difficult for people at Riot is they're like, what? We talked about this. We've revealed all of it. We told you all about this. And it was like, yeah, but that was 2 months ago, and people were more focused on the LTA stuff and all the type of thing. So, like, you could go back and you could find what the format is going to look like, Trespasser, because they did, like, a whole video for that. But I agree that if you're like, okay, guys, it's been 2 months since I got to watch competitive League of Legends esports, unless I was watching at odd hours other regions. And I want to go figure this out. And you go to the website and ask, like, when is it starting? The schedule, just like you click on LTA North, it doesn't. I'm on it right now. It shows me today.
The website's not up?
I did the same thing. I did the same exact like the routine you're saying. I did the same exact thing, and none of the information is there. Like,
yeah.
Oh, that's disappointing.
I tried watching the explainer again. Like, I literally watched it 3 times, and I couldn't get it. Like, it's so bad, the explainer. The comments, like, they're all saying it's bad too. Like, they couldn't understand it. It's like, why?
Because I have all leagues up right now, and I see LCK, I see LPL, I see LEC, and I don't see LTA, and that disappoints me.
Well, partially probably because we're starting later, but
I scroll down to the days we're starting it.
I'm scrolling down to January 25th. I don't see any of our games.
Yeah, I have it on all leagues too.
Oh no. Hey, wait like a week. It's gonna look great. Okay.
Thought they fixed the website.
I mean, they fixed the website. They just we're being positive, guys. LTA North is going to be good this year. Come on.
There was a really funny comment in Twitch chat I just want to point out. You know how no one calls Twitter X? We should just do that with LCS.
I thought about doing that, but it's like confusing.
But it's confusing, and I think it's actually bad for the success of the brand. If you do care and you want it to do well, whether you agree with the name change or not, like that's gonna hurt it.
I'm now referring to it as X too because it's so different from what Twitter used to be that I'm just calling it X.
Oh, I don't do that. I call it Twitter, but
it is very different.
It is. It used to be, but it is different.
I agree. All right. Anyway. Okay, Trespasser. To get to your point.
Hot start. Thanks, Trespasser.
No, look, you're 100% correct. It is really disappointing that this thing is starting in 2 weeks, and that if you are online, you see like everybody else is starting next week, and when you try to go find any information about LTA North or whatever, it's not on the website. And when you go to I will say, if you go to the Twitter, it shows you their schedule. The image looks a little weird, but it's there. You know, if you're trying to buy tickets, you can find it on the link tree. You can Google it. So, like, it's not the worst thing ever, but it's also definitely not ideal for. Look, the biggest thing is here's my final piece on this, and then whoever else wants to say something can. We have talked every year about how the LCS for a long time didn't do a good job of building hype early enough, didn't do good enough job of putting their information out there, getting people to understand, and that was a huge struggle for the league for a very long time. Now that it's becoming LTA North, you would think that it would be 5 times as important to do that early, because you have to educate people on the new brand. You have to get people to understand there's a ton of casual viewers that need to know all the stuff. There are people that are going to be Googling this. There are going to be people that are going to be trying to figure stuff out. Like it is just tough. Cubby's full in the dark now. It is just tough to see that, like, I really hope a lot hits this week, because yeah. So you're valid for those opinions, Trespasser. I feel.
Two quick points I want to hop in with as well. It's been said a couple times. It's already in 2 weeks. Technically, it's in 3 weekends from now, because we're at the beginning of the week. So we have the 11th and 12th, 18th and 19th, and then it starts the 25th, 26th. So for anybody, I saw people in chat being like, "Wait, it starts in 2 weeks?" Kind of, but like think of it more in like 3 weekends from now.
Yes. It starts like the 2 weeks from now is the week that it starts. But it will be the 3rd weekend from now that it starts. This is that constant when
Chad said it's in 2
weeks, 2 weeks type thing.
And then the second point is that we know that the esports team, this was like the big story that happened around this time last year. I think it was around this time. Maybe it was a little bit after, but if you remember, like week 1 of spring split, boom, we get hit with the news of Riot layoffs. And then the team, especially the esports team, getting affected by that. So I always like to remind people, just give, be generous, be thoughtful of the effort that is going into the product, because I promise you there is still a lot of effort going into the product. There's a lot of moving pieces, and it's tough to there is valid criticism, but it's tough to know that there are people that care just as much on the team, but they've been on forced break for a couple of weeks here, right?
I mean, I think that it not being on Google or like easily like the schedule, that sucks. That's part of the issues with the new brand. But like frankly, I'm not surprised we don't have a ton right now. I won't be disappointed if I will be disappointed if we get stuff like if it's 2 weeks out and we don't have anything. I think that they're gonna release most of their stuff probably next week, like in that next week, and that's my expectation, and that's fine. But yeah, it not being on the LOL esports schedule and not being easily Googleable definitely sucks. So hopefully that kind of stuff gets patched up by the time the season gets going.
Yeah. Trespasser, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Shout out Cloud9. I don't think they're gonna do well, but shout out them.
True fan.
Like also. They're making me wear a V-neck in 2025. I hate that about their jersey.
Is that their jersey?
Yes, it's a V-neck.
I haven't looked at it yet.
And I'm just like,
are V-necks not in? I like that. I have always liked V-necks because I feel like I can, it's a little easier to breathe in them.
Trespasser, have you seen the Ben Stiller Deep V SNL sketch?
Yes.
No, I want to watch. I'll watch it after this though.
Yeah, you should go watch it.
Yeah.
I think these V-necks look fine, but maybe that's because I'm a boomer. I don't know. I'm looking at the jerseys right now.
Yeah, I see it.
Mihir in chat says I should get a FlyQuest jersey. I have one just in case Cloud9 bomb out. They will, so I'll be fine there.
You got your backup team ready.
Yeah. So yeah, those are my shout outs, but yeah.
Thanks for the call. Catch you next time.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Cubby, that's a great idea for a content skit, by the way, for LTA, is do just recreate the deep V, but where like different teams are competing with each other because the Cloud9's got the V, so everyone else has to get a deeper V.
Yeah. By the way, it should be noted that part of the reason why teams are not up on the schedule is because there's a draw show on the 18th. So that first week of esports for everybody else, they're doing the draw show.
Even with that, if I keep on scrolling, the LCK dates for their play-in for winter, they have TBD. So they could still have TBD versus TBD slots.
They could be showing TBD on there.
Yes.
But
I think that would help.
But that is
and
why
also
we won't
put
know
the
what
draw
teams
show
are
on
playing.
the schedule. Like throw that up there too.
You say that, I would be surprised if this website that they've built is capable of showing anything other than this team versus this team.
Draw show versus draw versus show. There we go.
Yeah. That's honestly, they should probably do it that way. Yeah, I don't know. Ooh, okay, you want to get the next caller?
Yeah.
Cool. We got some folks. I see more people getting into the waiting rooms or the pleb calls and sub calls rooms. So thanks everybody for doing that. Shout out to Goat Cheese Please, Aerohydrus, Kanoke, B Bella, PP Doc, Magnarius, Shavul, Elias Tries, Whoopsie Daisies, and Hobnobbin. Thank you. And over on YouTube, thank you to Mochi Teddy. Thanks everybody for all of your support. We have Pyroscorcher here. Pyroscorcher, where are you calling from?
Calling from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, Ohio. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So the core of my take is that Riot Project K, it offers fans an avenue to continue interacting with the League of Legends universe.
You're kind of cutting out a little bit. I don't know if you can get a little closer to your mic. You're saying,
yeah, is that better?
Yeah, Project K.
It should be.
So Project K offers fans an avenue to interact within the League of Legends universe that's less physically, especially for us old people, and now claim that status since today.
So you were still cutting out a little bit, but I'll raise your take here. Project K offers League fans an avenue for continued competition within the League of Legends universe that requires less physically demanding mechanics. You were saying, now that I can claim old person status at the ripe old age of 30, I can officially start complaining about stiff joints and slow reaction times. So we won't make this super long, because I know a bunch of people are going to be like, well, this isn't about League eSports. But
it's the ecosystem.
It is within the ecosystem.
And
it
is
Travis's League of Legends competition. I mean, we don't tend to talk too much. What I don't want is for people to be like, Travis likes card games, and so now he's taking calls about card games. But and we haven't really talked too much about like 2XKO or whatever.
Yeah.
But at least two of us on this show really like card games, and there's a League of Legends card game that has been announced, and I have played it and own the decks that they gave out. Yes.
Oh my god, I'm so jealous.
Let me see if
yeah,
I
cool,
can
Steve.
Oh, dude, I literally, when they announced it, I sent out messages. I sent out DMs to people at Riot. I was like, can somebody please get me in the door? It was like the Eric Andre, like, let me in! And I did not find any luck.
Josh, or Pyroscorcher, are you a fan of TCG in general? Like, do you play other games? Or are you looking forward to the Riot version?
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I used to play a lot of Hearthstone. But I played pretty competitively, hit Legend.
Oh, wow. So Legend and Hearthstone? Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so,
to your point, though, I do think it's cool to have different ways to engage, especially with an IP. I think Arcane showed that there's a big audience that's interested in the IP, but then we've seen all these reports of people actually trying League of Legends and being like, oh, this is not what I was expecting. So just having more ways to engage with the game that can appeal to different audiences, I think is always going to be a positive thing. I just hope they put enough resources behind it that people they maintain the momentum, because I don't know if anyone's kept up with Lorcana. I actually have not kept up with Lorcana, but as a passive observer, it feels like the hype for that has died down a little bit. Like it just didn't maintain.
You're talking about the Disney card game that came out.
That's a Disney card game, yeah. And a lot of, like, pretty much every year a new card game comes out, and it's hard to crack into the top 3. Like Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh really do have. Like,
I mean, One Piece has definitely done it recently.
Yep.
So I think that from having played the game, I think it's pretty fun. And I do hope that they will do some cool competitive stuff around it. I really wonder if they will, they've received a lot of criticism for not supporting, quote unquote, supporting Legends of Runeterra enough.
Yeah.
And so I am curious if they will do more for Project K than they did for Legends of Runeterra.
Can you say if there's going to be a similar champion mechanic, Travis?
Yeah, all the mechanics and everything are public. So yeah, you do have, your deck is built around a specific legend. So for instance, I have a Volibear deck, a Yasuo deck, a Jinx deck, and a Victor deck.
Can you combine them the way you could in LOR, or is it only one?
What's that?
Like in LOR, you could have multiple champions in your deck. Can you combine them in this, or does it have to be just one?
I have not. I think maybe you might be able to do that if people have the same colors or whatever. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Actually, I know you can because my Jinx deck has Vi in it. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated. I don't want to get into all the crazy mechanics here because I know a lot of people are not as interested. But
yeah, I will say, like, my issue with LOR is I really hated the boss or champion mechanic, and whatever style of deck you wanted to play heavily revolved around that particular, like, just that individual card. I know that's very common in like commander formats, but as a more casual card game player myself, I don't like when I have to have that card and it's not easily accessible. And I had an issue with that. The one thing I really liked about LOR was the mana mechanic. I thought that was actually really smart. Like having spell mana versus mana. I don't think that'll continue with the actual card game, but I opted into playing other games just because I liked Hearthstone and Magic better. We'll see if I end up playing this at all.
I see some people in the chat over on YouTube saying like, "Hey, if this is just an asset flip," because like some people were disappointed that they used some of the art from the from Legends of Runeterra. They were like, if it ends up being an asset flip, I don't think it'll be successful. Well, this card, I'm pretty sure that I'm showing you is a card in Hearthstone, and it is art from the WoW TCG. These are World of Warcraft trading card game cards.
Oh.
And I played the WoW TCG before Hearthstone came out, and they used a lot of the same stuff from WoW TCG, existing art and all that type of stuff, and I thought it was fine. I don't really understand why people are upset about that in
that just makes sense to me.
Project K. I'm like, people are upset. Yeah, I think the art is cool in Legends of Runeterra. I don't know why they're like, and no one can see this ever outside of the game again. So I don't know. You can play it commander style, by the way, with 4 people. So that's kind of a cool thing. Okay. I'm excited about it. I think it's nice that, to your point, I think it was Cubby, you said that it's cool, or Kangas, you said it was cool that there's another way to like engage with the world in a competitive way. I also think it's nice that there's a backup for me. If LTA North doesn't go well this year.
Yeah. You want to get a card game podcast going, Travis? We can talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic.
I don't like. I think that doing that would be like making a show where you talk about multiple esports, which has always been a bad idea. But yeah, maybe I need to start the Project K podcast now just to secure my position for when at the end of this year Mark is like, "Hey guys, LTA North is now LEC West." Okay. Anyway,
that's 2 years down the road. Next year we just go all best of ones.
Yeah. I'm trying not to cry on this episode. Okay, so let's see. Thank you so much, Pyro. I know your mic's been kind of cutting in and out, so I don't want to go too far. But anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, I had a couple of shout outs. The NZXT for sponsoring the show going. For both you and Covey, all the work you guys put in to put on the show. And then also to my partner, John, who not only tolerates but embraced my love of and has joined me watching and following these podcasts.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. All right, I think we'll do one more call, and then we'll take a quick break.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fun calls tonight, though. Thank you to Game or GF. Thank you for the 40 months. Fourfold, thanks for the Prime. Skizzle653, thank you for the 6 months. Appreciate everybody coming in to support with subs and that type of stuff. Again, it is very much appreciated. All right, we got mihir. Is that your name?
Yeah, something like that.
Mihir. Mihir, where are you calling from?
Probably not too far from your house, somewhere in Los Angeles as well.
Well, you don't know where I live, so let's
Wait, is this the Mihir that I know?
Yeah, it is a Mihir, you know.
Hey, what's up, Mihir? How's it going?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing well.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
All right, so the other day I was eating food and I kind of realized there's a lot of like content creators who historically haven't really been big on League, recently taken interest in League, whether it's Ludwig, Jason the Ween, or I can name a couple other content creators. And I feel like the theme of today's show is kind of, wow, LTA is lacking in this department, so I guess I'm like kind of contributing towards a snowball. But I really feel like it's really essential for League to kind of diversify its audience because, I mean, I've been a fan of League for like 8-9 years, but majority of the League audience has just straight up grown up. And I feel like not connecting with these new content creators and broadening like the age of the audience is like a huge miss by Riot. Because whether it's like something as simple as inviting them to a weekend of LCS and having them vlog it, like that alone will probably get a couple thousand people watching. Or, you know, for some of them, maybe even co-streaming. You know, I feel like there's so many opportunities for Riot to kind of grow their audience beyond the traditional demographic that they've had historically. And I mean, I feel like everyone's disappointed about like a million different things, but I'm kind of disappointed it's not emphasized more.
So what does that have to do with you eating food, though?
Well, I realized it when I was eating food because when I eat food, I have like pretty deep thoughts. So I was like, yeah.
You just sort of chew your food and gaze off into the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I stare at the wall or the window.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you come up with Hotline League takes during your meals. Okay, so yeah, you listed off. I think I saw on your take in Discord that there were you listed a bunch of people who were playing League recently, and I've seen this myself. But do you want to name off some of these people?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at like a lot of the creators, we have like Ludwig, Jason the Ween, even like Linkin Park, who like, I mean, I like Linkin Park's music, but for them to be big League fans is just so like random. You know, I just feel like there's so many different audiences you can reach. Like, I mean, Cubby can like attest this because he watches traditional sports. Like, they'll have the most random celebrities from different walks of life at these games. Like, what the fuck is Taylor Swift doing at a football game? You know what I mean? But it's like
supporting your boyfriend, but yeah, you know,
but it's like they make sure we know she's there. And with like basketball, like I went to the NBA Cup in Las Vegas, and they like made sure we saw every single celebrity there. And I feel like if League is really gonna grow past, it's like, you know, it's kind of box it has put itself in. It's kind of it needs to become more of a cultural phenomenon, and this happens when you're able to unite people from different walks of life, whether it's like, you know, age group, ethnicity, interests. I feel like there's just so much potential, especially with the way content creation on social media is structured, that like I just feel like it's such a huge fumble that I mean, we already don't have any content in the offseason, but surely, hopefully by like the start of this split, we have like we being Riot has like big plans and, you know, getting a lot of these new people involved. I mean, we saw some of it with like Cadrill's different because Cadrill's been in the scene, but you know, we had Cutie Cinderella briefly on the desk, and that was a huge hit. Everyone loved that.
Yeah, she was great.
I want to see like so much more of that, where it's like like League is more than just a game. I'm not saying this because I'm a loser, but like League is more than just a game. So like I just feel like there's so many more people you can really like touch and reach. Like the Arcane pop-up. I mean, everyone's like seen the Arcane pop-up at that boba shop in K-Town. That's awesome. We need like 10 times more of that.
All right, I'm going to pitch something to you, Mihir, and let me know if this is something that you think is going to fix the hole that you see in LTA marketing. We get like Ludwig, somebody from Imagine Dragons, and I don't know, maybe like an NFL player that plays League, that we know plays League, and we market on the LTA. First one of them to hit plat gets the VIP pass to LTA finals. And they're going to every week have check-ins where pro players are like coaching them and like giving them tips and tricks of like how to get better. And that's like a bit that's baked into the broadcast. We keep track of it. And then if within a split, one of them's able to hit plat, then we make a big deal of that during the finals broadcast. And we have them in their own booth and we have like a camera on them. And like we keep hyping up how well they did hitting plat. Something like that.
I mean, yeah, it sounds pretty cool, but that'd be kind of embarrassing because you'd be outranked by a football player. But I mean, like a perfect example is like Nikola Jokic, like one of the best basketball players on the face of the earth, is a huge League fan.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing anything? I mean, obviously it's probably a little bit different because he probably has agents you have to go through. If I work at Riot, I am blowing up his agent's email to get him to do like maybe a 20-second video, or maybe fly him out to LA if it's like in the basketball offseason, because I know their offseason is typically during like our summer split. Like do something. The best basketball player in the world loves League. Why are we not capitalizing on that? We had Olympians who love League. Linkin Park loves League.
Yeah.
Linkin Park still has like millions and millions of like listeners. It's like, bro, like there's so much opportunity to really diversify the audience.
No,
And-
I think it's a great take. Like, especially, why do we hear about this coming from Casual, right? And this is nothing to take away from Casual. Like, the fact that he got this, like, the guy's reaching out to him and he's Olympian, like, that's cool as shit, right? But this could be something that Riot further capitalizes on, and instead it's like a big creator capitalizing on it, as he should, which is great work, and it was really cool to see from everyone. But yeah, like I think there are a lot of opportunities to, as you said, make this look like it's bigger than the game. And I remember stuff that League did in the past that I felt like was successful. They had really good stuff with Gordon Hayward, who was really into League, and because there were a lot of ties to basketball and just that fact that he was into it, like he was able to come in and talk about the game and the League, and that's the kind of stuff where everyone likes to see. I mean, I even remember Travis, when you were doing your Worlds interview, like you included Porter Robinson. Like I know he was a little incognito there, but just having the moments like what Mihir's talking about, like the NBA, where they show who's sitting courtside and they make that look cool, and they show the people that you would know from elsewhere. Yeah. Like Mihir, you've been around LCS a lot. You know that cool people show up all the time and are kind of incognito, right? I feel like that's a missed opportunity. It's something that we do well at NICL. The few times we get to use the studio, whenever we see pro players in there supporting friends or teammates, we always highlight them, right? We had an interview with Busio and showed API on stage after their wins in summer and spring, respectively, this past year. Like that's the kind of stuff that makes it bigger than the game. And yeah, I mean, we're going to be seeing some of the content creators you listed. I know that we'll be seeing more of, like around League. So I'm excited to see when that news breaks and how people react to it. But yeah, I hope that especially, like, let's be honest, why did Disguise get the spot? Because of Toast. Like, hopefully we're able to use and leverage this. It saved NACL. I hope that LTA North is prepared to have it, like, make a big splash on, like, for them as well. So yeah.
The only thing I do want to call out is that there are times in which you reach out to these people, even if you're Riot, and they say, oh yeah, we'd love to have our client show up. It'll be a $10,000 day rate, and then they'll be able to do some content with you or something. Like it's, and I guess maybe there's a conversation to be had about whether or not that is worth it or not. But like I think that it can be a little difficult sometimes because depending on how you reach out to these folks, like they want to be paid for the time that they're putting in to promote your event. But I do agree overall that, like, at the very least, they should be reaching out and just being like, hey, do you want to come watch? Like, you can come watch anytime you want. I think the other thing is Riot ends up a little conflicted on some of this stuff because if you can get, what is it, Jokovic? That's his... Jokic. Yeah. So if you can get Jokic, it's like, if you're Riot Games and you're, whatever, like the head of, I don't know, PR relationships or something like that, do you want to have Jokic come to a Saturday to hang out at the LTA North game, or do you want to have him on campus where you do like a bigger thing with him around that's like more broadly about the league and he's talking about his favorite thing and you've set up some sort of show match or something? And I by the way, I'm not saying that like clearly they're not doing that either, but I can't understand why it's like a little weird compared to the NBA, where like with the NBA is the NBA. That's like the biggest thing here. But esports is like the smaller thing next to like League of Legends as a whole. And so I think it ends up being complicated sometimes for Riot has to figure out what their priorities are.
It is, but like even going back to like early days of NBA before it was big, like the Lakers were really big in getting Hollywood stars like Jack Nicholson to sit courtside, right? And they wanted to make it look cool to be courtside, to like be one of the stars. And talking about in-arena experiences, it's something that's definitely is dwindling for the LCS, but I think the point is valid of anything that you can do to make this look bigger than what it is. Stuff like having Cutie Cinderella and Courage come on and be a part of the broadcast and do a banging job. Like that's something where you do pay for, but I also know plenty of times where I see Meteos or Yasuo or other people in the audience and like just having a camera pan to them and being like, hey, like look who's in attendance. Like that's
they did that with Bjerg last year whenever he showed up, and I think they've done it with Peter and other people. Like they've shown. Well,
we did it with Bjerg when he showed up for the disguised game. Yeah. Like I've seen Bjerg in there a few times where it doesn't get recognized. I know that. I mean, in particular, that case, like some people want to have a lower profile, and that's fine. But also, if the LCS is smart, like They should be.
Yeah, I don't think. I do think what is true is that Riot probably tries to figure out. They have influencer handlers that are like, oh, we're trying to be discreet about this person, and I don't think the NBA is ever like, oh no, like just fucking put the camera on them right now. We need to get them here. So, yeah, I mean, look, if they can get any of these people out, I think it's pretty good. The only thing I would push back on a little bit is I really like Cutie Cinderella. I really liked her parts on the LCS. I don't know if that actually grew LCS viewership that much. Do we think that there was a surge in viewership even by a couple percentage points that year because Cutie was on? I mean, I liked it.
Talented enough for if she was on the show, I think it'd be good for the show. I mean, obviously she's bigger than that. She has stuff that she's working on, but I thought she was a really killing addition. So I don't know what the economics are behind it or the viewership, but she was good. There was no doubt about that.
Yeah. The way I feel about it is so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think she appeared once.
No, it was a couple times.
It was a couple times. Right?
It was at least
twice, three or four, maybe, I think.
One of the 2 days I was on, she was there.
Now, full disclosure, I have no idea if she got she definitely probably got paid, but I don't know what her rate is or whatever. So I don't know if it's sustainable to have her for a whole split. But it's really hard to observe or calculate the effect on viewership over such a short span of time. And Travis brought up a really good point with obviously someone like Nikola Jokic is probably expensive as heck to get him to come to LA. He lives in Denver. Why would he come to LA? But I mean, even if it isn't the big names, I'm pretty sure most streamers would show up for less than an NBA athlete or vice versa. So that's a really good point. I actually didn't even consider that. So that's a good point. Thank you for
Jason, this Jason the Weenie guy, right? I've seen clips of him on other people's channels and stuff. I didn't even know he'd been playing League. But yeah, look, what I really like about what you're saying here is that, and I've noticed this too, there seems to be, I think in part because of Arcane, a really big wave of people that are going back and playing League again, like Ludwig, like some of these other folks. And I do feel like the LTA should hopefully be reaching out to these people being like, hey, how can we collab? How you want to come to a game? Do you want to do some content with some of our pro players? Do you want to get coached? We'll make it happen. I think that is very reasonable.
And I think one benefit that NA has over other regions, for example, maybe it's biased because obviously I live in NA, I watch NA content. I feel like the amount of content creators that are notable names, especially in Los Angeles, is very high. I mean, we just named Ludwig, Jason, Cutie Center, a bunch of these people are all in LA. Whereas with other regions, maybe they have to do a remote through co-streaming, or maybe they don't have the benefit of having them in Berlin. But the fact that we host the LCS in the same city as some of the biggest people in the content creation space, it's even if it costs us a little bit, I think investing in the longevity, even if it increases how much Riot has to spend, I think anything we can do to push towards longevity and broadening the audience is worth, in my opinion at least. I mean, obviously I don't run financials for Riot. If I did, they'd probably be bankrupt by now. But I think it's worth the effort at the minimum, because it's all right, well, the alternative is kind of never growing beyond this niche thing that introverts like to watch on Twitch on the weekends.
Hey, there's some extroverts that like to watch it.
Yeah,
a couple.
I think all of us are extroverts. Cubby, are you an extrovert?
I don't know, actually. I'm kind of depends on the day.
I get tired of
omnivore.
I think that's fair, because I get tired of the oh, you either are this or this. People use labels too much in 2020.
Yeah, it's you say that, and it's the first thing I imagine is what if I streamed every day for 12 hours and be yeah, no, that wouldn't last 4 days.
Are you an ENTJ? Are you a Leo? Are you a Hufflepuff?
Ooh, asking the Hufflepuff question.
The only good take is I'm a will shaper, All right, so Mihir.
That's some Brandon Sanderson thing, isn't it?
It is. Mihir, anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Honestly, I'm just kind of glad to have League back pretty soon, even though it's a little bit later than usual. I don't know why, but I think you mentioned this year has felt so much more dry than the past. So I'm just glad to kind of. We have media day next week, but
it has been fucking dead, man. It's actually so crazy. I had to just eventually in December be Travis, it's okay that you're not doing much, because there's just not much to do,
I just opened the subreddit, and the 10th post is a weekly skin sale post. And that's like the most tame thing that's hitting the subreddit. Like I open it up once a day and just go like, fuck this. Like everyone's like actually just losing their goddamn minds because there's no esports.
Yeah,
Look,
I mean,
I'm
there's
just saying
been
it all
stuff in
started to go
other.
downhill when Rick Fox left. We need Rick Fox back. Get the talking head for the league.
Like when was the last time you saw skin sales in the top 10 of the subreddit? I wrote these down in my notebook growing up, like in high school. I actually tracked this shit. I really did. But like Jesus Christ is on the top of the subreddit. Like please.
There's been other stuff in other regions that have been interesting in the off season, like the T1 Zeus drama and all the ruddy esports and stuff. But
that could be a great call, actually, Travis. Why was NA so lazy with not doing any promotional events in the offseason? We had K Corp, we had T1, we had Demacia Cup, we have Kespa Cup. The hell is NA doing?
Selling their teams, Covey. All right, Mihir, thanks so much for the call. Anything? Did I give you your shout outs? I don't think so.
I'm glad to have League back, and I don't really have any shout outs. Just shout out you guys, and that's a shout out the sponsors as well.
Where can people find your content that you're going to be creating at Asset Week next week?
So all my content can be found on Twitter. I still call it Twitter, like similar to how people are going to call it LCS. You can find me on Twitter at LOL Mihir, and then my YouTube is LOL Mihir1 because someone took LOL Mihir. So yeah,
unbelievable. All right, thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care, bye.
All right, we're going to take a quick break to talk about NZXT. While we were doing the show, not necessarily directly NZXT related, but NVIDIA was doing their keynote, and they just announced the GeForce RTX 5090 and their 5000 series, which is pretty hype for those that are NZXT NZXT fans of NVIDIA and want NVIDIA stuff in there. I don't know if I go to the NZXT website if they have. I mean, I guess they wouldn't have it up yet. But look, my point is, I have to imagine that eventually they will end up in their NZXT PCs, and so maybe it's a good time to start looking at their machines, their rigs. Figure out if there's something here that you're in the mood for, because if you end up deciding that you want to upgrade to a computer with an NVIDIA 5000 series card in it, you're going to potentially be interested in going and just getting a full new build. So thank you so much to NZXT for sponsoring us. They are, for those, I do really want to shout them out because I love all my sponsors. It is always great to have these partners. In 2024, we had amazing partners that came with us to do some of our bigger events. NZXT is the only sponsor that has signed a full year deal with us. So even though we're in the cold dead of the off season, when we're sitting here talking about the most random stuff on our first episode of the year, NZXT is here keeping us warm. So thank you so much to NZXT for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate their support. And we're looking forward to working with them for many more months to come. So
also, I gotta say, I got the Player 2 Prime. I'm pretty sure is the one that I got, the pre-build using your code, and it's been treating me beautifully. So I'm loving it.
Thank you so much for the endorsement. I appreciate it. All right, we have a couple more callers to go. We'll see. We have two, and we might end up getting a third. I see some people still waiting in the sub calls. Maybe we'll be able to pull them. But shout out to Bug Juice Reviews for the membership and Mochi Teddy for the $5 super chat. Don't know if you're still here, Mochi Teddy, but it is really cool that I think you're our first super chat of 2025. So very, very nice of you. Nosh Kodo with the Prime. Haru, 28 months. Mohika 100, thank you for the 23 months. By the way, first super chat. If anybody over on Twitch feels like they have some bits they're burning in their pocket, they can be the first bits of 2025. How exciting! It's Solaris is here. Solaris, am I saying your name right?
You are.
Where are you calling from?
Marietta, Georgia.
Marietta, Georgia. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I actually have a pretty doomer take, and I'm just really hoping like you guys can give me some faith.
Okay.
I think the reduced, like people just don't have the disposable income today anymore, and I think that combined with how difficult it is to stay relevant positions LTA to like really just completely fall apart. And I think LCS would have faced a lot of challenges this year because of where I guess pop culture and the economy is. But because we just abandoned the mat, one of our biggest strengths during esports winter, like during a very stagnant period, I feel like we have no real way to like reliably garner interest. And then even if we did, people can't really financially support esports these days. So I guess realistically, I guess I've been saying to people that I know that LTA like LCS might need to like completely deform and then try to like reform alongside like Arcane or some other major league related event. But that just seems impossible too. So I don't know.
So it sounds like you're sort of saying that you expect this year to be like not a good year for the LTA. You think it's going to be this will. Do you want to say is it this the last year of LTA, or what is your expectations kind of here?
I think we have this might be one of the last year, if not next year will be the last year, basically. Like very, very close to just being it. Pretty doomer.
Yeah. And you were saying some interesting things here, because I think a lot of people would call in and they'd be like, oh, I think it's because we suck at Worlds and no one will want to watch, or I think it's because we like I don't like the casters, and so whatever. You're talking more about sort of these bigger trends around the world, around the economy and that type of stuff. I'm kind of curious if you can bounce into that, because that was not necessarily what I was expecting.
Oh, I see. I mean, if you hear like I don't want to get like really political here, but like all the rhetoric about how, oh, 3 people own half of the wealth in America, and oh, it's the same way in the UK and in Canada and all around the world. And I feel like the people that I know are really struggling financially, even though they love esports, and they just feel like it's just not. It's more like a pastime, It's like it's not really something worth putting money into because you just got to focus on like food and stuff like that. And then I feel like like the same people, like they'd rather just like either game all the time or just scroll through TikTok. Like it's really hard to keep attention in the first place. So a rebrand just seems like you're making it doubly hard in like an already very difficult time. And I guess that's where I'm coming from.
So I hear you on income inequality being bad, but I will say that like I would think that would mean people would be more likely to consume LTA because it's kind of free. Like instead of people going out and spending money, going to restaurants, going to movies at their local AMC or something like that, you just get to turn on Twitch, rev up your ad block, and do absolutely nothing to support the league, and Riot just runs that shit. And it feels like to your point, that might indicate like a longer term financial problem, but in the short term, you would think that like Riot could just be like, oh, viewership up, this is good. Wow, we just got a huge gifted bomb. Thank you, Xpix. But in the short term, you would think that at the very least that would make viewership go up this year, and people would feel good about it, right?
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
So I also have a thought on that. I don't know what the exact number was. Maybe Travis or Cubby would know. But I remember hearing reports that esports has a very low turnover rate in terms of like sales. Like there's a metric you can calculate. Cubby, I think you know about this for like NFL. It's like how much money. Well, how much money does an average fan spend, right? And esports is like super low. Like it's like under $1 average spent per fan.
It's $5.60 according to NPR, which is like a year that podcast what they did was like a year old now. But I think the one thing that I'll hit on too is like what the caller is kind of referencing is I will say that there is a bit of sentiment from sponsors in the space that they have been burned by esports before, or that like they haven't seen the numbers or haven't seen the return they want on esports. And obviously, esports has burned a lot of people in the long run, like thinking back to the franchising era of not just League, but other games, which was way worse. And some of those leagues just are simply not around or even close to the same form or function they were at that time, unlike LTA, which is still kicking and comparatively is doing okay. But there is a concern that like we had the franchise VC money come in. When that bubble popped, it was replaced by crypto. And now we haven't had anything else that really has come in to replace the bubble, right?
We're going to get gambling sponsors.
Oh, yeah, true. Well, that's there. It's the gambling sponsors are so fucking limited, and I will say I'm glad that Riot actually changed their policy on that. I know that might not be a popular take, but I did give it when we said that we weren't going to cover EWC, Travis. I would rather just have gambling money come in if we actually did need money, and they will, but it's going to be extremely limited in the form of the gamba that's going to be there. Compared to what a lot of other leagues do, even like CS. Like, I don't think you can have it on the jersey.
Yeah, you can't have it on
all.
broadcast and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like super limited, which I actually don't agree with because I still feel like they're limiting money, but that's fine. That's Riot's prerogative. So I don't know. Yeah, that's my greatest fear is that, like, where's the next money truck going to come from for esports? And I don't know what that is. And it certainly isn't going to be from fans because historically, like, esports is primarily free, as Travis pointed out. Fans do not spend money on this, and if you can't monetize fans, which like we haven't been able to do, then it's hard. And the fans, the way they're spending their money, they're going to support their favorite streamers, and they're not supporting their favorite teams, and that's something that's going to be really tough to combat. And that's something that has actually always existed in esports because people did always follow the star players. But now the original stars have left. The new crop of stars, which I think we could have some great stars in the next generation of LTA North. I really do. I think there are a lot of talented players and people that people can root for, but no one's close to being the size of Bjergsen or Doublelift. And that is an issue. Like, for me, I see what Masu has done. Like, in year one, Masu had an utterly ridiculous year. He is someone that I feel like player-wise, everyone can root for and get behind, and he's not even close to being the size of popularity of some of the other pros we've had. And talent-wise, I think he's one of the most talented players that I've seen come up into the league. So I really hope that we have more people or more players that people latch onto and can hopefully grow with that and actually want to get invested in the teams they're a part of as well. So, but yeah.
So an interesting take here, because I think there's kind of there's a direction I want to head off on this, which is one, I guess I should say before we head off on that, I think the priority mission for LTA this year is viewership. I honestly think that they just want to get as much aggregated viewership within, especially North America, as possible so that they can be like, yo, look, the new brand has worked, the new format has worked, the new system has worked, a lot of the decisions we're making is good. So I think that is like priority number one. And if viewership goes up, God, if viewership went up like 30% year over year, like, I'm sure people within Riot would be like, yo, this is great. This is successful. We're going to keep doing this. And it would not be that bad. So I don't want us to get sidetracked too much by the money thing, because I think, look, eventually the money thing will become relevant. And I'm not saying it's irrelevant this year, but I think when we're talking about the things that LTA needs to accomplish this year in particular, I think it's going to be priority number one is going to be viewership. But here's the thing that we haven't spent too much time talking about. Maybe I should do a separate video about this. Riot is changing their esports business model. They've talked about this publicly, but people haven't talked about it too much sort of in response. Maybe that's on folks like myself. But in the past, Riot was going to be, they thought that the majority of their income was going to be coming from sponsorships with regards to esports. Sponsorships and broadcast revenue and all this stuff. We talked about the failed Project Striker stuff or whatever, like the plans to do the premium product that they were making for streaming and all that type of thing.
The Vamtech deal? Are we going back to it?
No, not the Vamtech deal, but the successor of the Vamtech deal. But the layoffs last year killed their plans to do stuff like that. So now they've been saying repeatedly, hey, we're going to try to do esports tie-ins to the game, and we're going to try to fund a lot of our esports efforts through a lot of this. So things like the Faker skin, yes, but also the emotes that we saw last year for all the teams, just a lot of different things. I'm sure they've got more that's in line. So I think since we're talking about the finances of this, I think one of the big things this year that Riot has to figure out alongside growing viewership is how much can we monetize our esports audience through the client. If every LTA fan goes and spends $10 in the League of Legends client on LTA related esports stuff this year, that's going to be really big for the esports team and for Riot. So I don't know if that'll happen. I think there's a lot of people that watch LTA but don't play the game anymore. But I think to date, Riot has not done a great job of figuring out compelling products to offer in League of Legends for esports fans. But I think that's one of the big questions that we're gonna have to figure out this year.
I know that there was a Reddit post that went around with the in-game purchasable. It wasn't icons; it was emotes, right? Emotes you could spam. And there was a report for the LEC teams that I don't remember who was number one. G2 was number 2. They weren't even number 1. KC was number 1. Yeah, of course. And KC apparently sold a bunch, but like none of the other teams sold enough that they were happy with the return. Like in the report, it was like, yeah, KC had a bunch, but everyone else, it was like, like they weren't impressed with what they were able to make from that. So I know that was like the first attempt. So hopefully eSport fans show up more in the future, because that really does seem to be the way to help support the teams as a fan. Like, absolutely throw your subs to Travis Gafford, twitch.tv/Travis Gafford. But also, if you have the ability to get some of the emotes, if you think they're cool, if you like a team, get their emote, because that's a way to directly support them.
Or buy their shit. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah. Kangas and Cubby, Solaris was worried about if, it was a very doomer take on the future of the LTA. The idea is that people are not going to be tuning in. If they are tuning in, they don't have the money to spend to support it, et cetera, et cetera. Why should Solaris feel optimistic about the LTA this year? What should get Solaris excited?
I think that Riot will continue to narrow up broadcast. I think it's pretty clear that Riot's KPIs are unique viewers and time watched, and they feel like they can hit that with co-streams more than putting on their own product in a cheaper manner. So I think that will continue to narrow regardless of viewers. But I think there are a lot more ways to be a fan this upcoming split, in terms of the 3-split system, the bonus international tournament, which I will give Winter, even though I think Winter split is kind of more of a novelty split overall. But like the interactions of having 5 regions now that have sub-regions and divisions that will interact. I'm hoping that with the narrowed up teams, there will be more people that are fans of teams and then also enjoy the rivalries that will be built in these leagues that hopefully stand for a little bit and don't get narrowed up like too quickly. That on top of like things like promotion relegation being involved, I think that's gonna be a really fun aspect of these leagues again. Overall, I'm hopeful. So yeah.
I think that's going off on your point. That's what to get excited about, is the rivalries that are going to exist in LTAN versus LTAS. This is something that I've heard people talking about. I have my own opinion on it. I don't know if Travis or Cubby want to voice yours, but like, should we as a region, because we have 2 conferences, be buddy and we're all supportive of each other and we're all one region? Or should we say, screw that, we are rivals at war with each other for the international spots? I think it's going to be more naturally the later.
It's screw that so you go to Worlds, yeah.
Yeah, until you go to Worlds, like until we have the international representatives. But I think that makes me excited that we're gonna have this tournament in Brazil. And most people didn't follow the Tier 2 scene, but the last time we had a tournament in Brazil, the Brazilian Tier 2 teams beat the NA Tier 2 teams. So like they actually just last year beat us. And I think that's going to be a very fun tournament to go into, because it's like, this is our international representation on the line. It's no longer just NA versus EU. We have our own more local rival to have. And I think that's going to be really fun. I really want to push for that and hope that there is content throughout the split tracking what's going on in the Southern Conference, so the people in the Northern Conference at least have an idea. Just have like a segment at the top of the show during the Analyst Lounge or something like that to be like, these are the teams popping off down there, so that by the time we actually get to that event, we'll have more understanding of like who our rivals are, because I think that is the exciting thing for me.
I think that's all really good, unless we start to lose. If something ends up happening where LTA North loses to LTA South and we don't have a team at that first tournament, I think it's going to do a lot of damage to spring viewership. So I guess we'll see, or split 2 viewership.
I don't think so. And frankly, if they lose, then fucking deserved.
No, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm just saying like they would. not be great, I think, for morale.
That's fine. All I'm going to say, I'm going to give the precursor for morale. A lot of people going into the Americas Tier 2 tournament thought that NACL would just win, should be the 2 best teams. I watched tape to the scouting, and a couple of the Brazilian teams, one ended up winning. It was much better than what people thought, and a lot of people were surprised, and I was not after going through the tape. So there are going to be some Brazilian teams like that. Region's made a lot of leaps and strides. They're really motivated. And there are going to be some teams that are going to be really competitive, even though they get paid a lot less.
And they're motivated because they are pissed off at us that we're now on region.
Yeah, and they got a chip on their shoulder. Like, those guys have a lot of fire under them. And if we can't beat that and match that fire, then we should fucking lose. And I have no remorse if that's the case. So I hope that our guys go out and work their tails off, because it's going to be legit competition. I will say that.
If they beat us for the first split international event, I will cheer for that Brazilian team going to represent the region internationally, but I will be rooting for LTA North.
I would be surprised if that happens, but also if it does, then deserved. So
look, Solaris, I think the things to be excited about for this year are going to be I still have faith in Mark. I think what he did last year, I don't know how. Actually, Solaris, how do you feel about what happened in LCS last year overall, like as a product, just as a show?
Personally, I loved it. I mean, Mark Z went crazy. That's just how I really feel.
Yeah.
And I think we've just had, it's been just a long off season. I think maybe that's what got me so doomer. Like, I'm really thinking about the rivalry, and it's like, it's going to get me so much more hyped up when we're actually back into it, I think.
Yeah, I think reasons to be excited for me, I think Mark just had a lot of really good ideas last year, and maybe he used all of them last year and has no good ideas this year anymore. But I think that he can build on what he did last year, and his team can do that as well. And even as things are changing, they'll find ways to keep things interesting and try different, content ideas and do different things with the new teams and stuff. So look, I feel you in that right now it is hard for me, I think, partially because Riot has not done a lot to make me care about, for instance, Lion Gaming or even Disguised in some ways, or the new rosters or whatever. It is hard for me to be super, super excited, but I think that they will make a compelling case, and we'll do asset day and stuff will start to come out, and then teams will start playing, and you'll see Cloud9 lose to Lion Gaming, or some crazy thing will happen. Then everyone will be freaking out and talking about it, and everyone will get excited about it, and then maybe we'll go to Korea with the team and we'll beat the LPL in some random game. And I think that things will feel cool soon enough. And right now it's easy, as you said, by the off season to feel a little down. So, but anything you want to shout out?
I'll shout out you, Kangas, Cubby, and just everyone who doesn't spend any money on LCS, because we are still really big fans.
Yeah, I'm excited as well to see, and I appreciate the shout out. So thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
All right. I think we've got time for 2 more callers. I'm going to pull somebody into the waiting room if that's cool. Cubby, I saw they're taking.
Yeah, no, go for it. I was kind of slow dripping it. I didn't know what we're going to do.
You're kind of what?
I was slow, like slow dropping. It's like a slow drip, drip coffee going to the waiting room, making sure that we had takes. We're good.
All right. Let's grab the next caller.
Yeah.
I think he said slow dripping. Let's say he said slow dripping. Okay. Huge shout out to PP Doc with 100 bits. Ixbix with 20 gifted subs. Very much appreciated. Ooh. Off Constantly with 10 gifted subs. And then Jaffe, who just hit 4 years of being subbed. Really appreciate everybody coming back in with such strong force for the start of the year. Really nice to see that. 504 Caesar, thank you for the $20 super chat over on YouTube. Director Donut, good to see you again. Thanks for the 40 months. And we got our next caller here. It's none other than Goose. Goose, where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Goose. I'm calling from Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Goose. My take is just excitement. You know what? Splits 1 and 3 look really fun. Split 2, it's always the midpoint. It's always going to be, dropping viewership, but I do think they miss out on best of 3s. We don't need to get into that much. I'm really excited for for that third split too. Just having that. Do I need to go into that?
Well, so wait, so you're saying viewership normally drops in split 2?
Or viewership normally drops in the middle of the split, doesn't it? Or middle of the season, doesn't it?
Well, usually,
summer,
summer is usually where it goes down, which I guess now is called split 3. But yeah, tell me about your hype. I want to hear about this, and especially because we've had some doomer takes on the call tonight.
Of course. Well, like you guys were mentioning in the previous call, we're gonna have a little bit more international rivalry with our folks down in the south. So first split will be interesting to see, interesting to watch. That third split is definitely going to be something fun to watch, just because the lower seeded teams can now challenge the higher seed teams, and that's, you know what, man, sounds honestly exciting, entertaining, and fun. I think it's something refreshing that we need.
Yeah. I don't know, Cubby or Kangas, if you guys want to hop in.
I like the split 3 format. Personally, I think it should have been split 2, where the stakes are a bit lower, since
I agree.
Given it the go. But that's gonna be a really high stakes split, and with a new format where you get to pick your opponent, that could be pretty wild. So I will say I am excited for that. I'm split 1. I'm a little bit cautious about Fearless, and I think that people are gonna have gripes with the tournament because if you lose your first 2 best of 3s, you're out. And I think the Fearless kind of loses the novelty. Like, people will appreciate Fearless and the novelty of it for a little bit, but I have a feeling that by the end of it, and this is my experience having cast 2 different versions of Fearless for the past year, by the end of it, people will kind of be tired of it, and there will be a lot of complaints about the lack of game quality going down. And if you don't believe that, just watch the start of LPL in their summer split where they had Fearless, and that league was literally unwatchable. Like, it was just terrible gameplay for the duration of Fearless draft. It was brutal. I have a feeling that a lot of people will be complaining about that, and by the end of winter, there will be not nearly as positive sentiment about Fearless as people had going in. Because for me, the novelty of it definitely wore off a little bit throughout last year, where I did realize that gameplay overall was just worse because people were playing more champs, and I did appreciate that a lot during the regular season, where I keep up with every game. But come playoffs, I actually didn't love it, and I'm kind of curious to see what public sentiment of it is, as someone that did, I have a leg up on people experiencing this, just because not everyone watches NACL for a year.
Don't take that opinion as fact, because Cubby's got a big brain and understands League of Legends at a deep level. If you're like me, small brain fan, Fearless is the best thing to ever happen.
We have Shaco. Yeah.
The only people complaining about Fearless are the people like, oh, we lose the draft meta in a best of 5 where suddenly Lee Sin becomes the thing. It's like, yes, there's trade-offs for it, but I think that the positive for it is still going to be really fun for viewers at the beginning. Yes, there might be some fall off, but I think that the majority of people will still enjoy it, and the majority of people do not watch League of Legends understanding the game at the deep level that the people that have criticisms for Fearless.
I can see the co-streamers just changing their mind about Fearless. I'm telling you now.
That's a good point. If Cadril changes his mind about it, everyone's just going to go along with whatever his opinion is, because that's just kind of how influencers work.
100%, man.
Playoffs come, I'm telling you, there's going to be complaints. The international tournament, people are going to be like, what the fuck's this? It's going to happen. I'm just warning you now, but I like the novelty. There is novelty to it.
Dude, if NA beats some other team in a Fearless format, people are going to be like, ooh, this format actually sucks.
It's going to be like APA winning the split where Azir's disabled types of asterisks.
Yeah.
If we lose in the Fearless format, thinking we can go, hey, it's Fearless. Didn't matter.
True.
I can see it going both ways, actually, where, to Cubby's point, maybe at the end of split 1, people are like, oh, actually, Fearless is not as cool. But I can also see 2 months into split 2, where 2 months after split 1, people are like, does anyone else miss Fearless? Oh my god, I'm so tired of seeing the same 5 champions every game. Blah blah blah. What's the point of even tuning in?
I hope that Fearless for the first split makes the meta more interesting for the next 2 splits. People will be forced to play more things and might like different champs or matchups and actually take that with them for the next 2 splits. And that is actually my true hope for having Fearless first, and why I'm kind of happy it's winter. I'm treating Winter Split like a novelty split. I really am. It's not going to be the format we use for MSI or Worlds. I think the international tournament having just 5 teams from like each region is lame, if we're being frank. And I hope that we get some interesting games. I will be watching them, of course, but it's not going to be as serious as the other 2 splits, and I'm accepting that, and that's okay. And I think because of going into that, I'm kind of looking forward to Winter Split. But I'm very curious what the community thinks of Fearless, because I've experienced this for a year, and I don't think the public sentiment will be as high or hopeful on it going in as it will be going out of it. And I'm interested to see if my hypothesis is correct.
But to your point that you were saying, even if it's a novelty split, I think it's exciting that almost half of the split is just going to be in Sao Paulo. It's like, what, two of the weekends out of the 3 weekends, and one of the weekends is only 1 day of games, according to the schedule.
2 of the weekends out of the 5 is, I think, what you mean. It's 2 and 3.
Yeah, sorry, yes. 2 out of the 5. There are 3 that are in NA. The last week is only 1 day of games, and then there's 2 weekends in Sao Paulo. So I think that's going to be cool. That, like, yes, it is novelty split. Yes, it's going to be like the least impactful of all of the ones, but I think that the rivalry that I was excited for is going to be prominently on display during that.
Yeah. It's gonna be so fucking weird, man. But I am excited to see what it looks like, and I do appreciate your call, Goose, because it is neat to be excited about. You know, I'm happy we have people that are excited about. Hey, you know, I want to see what Fearless looks like. I want to see what these different tournament formats look like. I want to see this hype, like high stakes split 3. And as we've kind of said throughout the night, like, it is difficult. You know, I think it is. This is so different from anything we've ever seen in a year of LoL esports content that it is really reasonable for people who are worried to feel worried, and for people who are excited to feel excited, because we just have never seen anything like this. And so it's going to, I think, really take us experiencing it to know what works and what doesn't, and what do they need to change for next year and what doesn't. And I think it'll be interesting for sure. So thanks so much for bringing the hype, though, Goose. Really appreciate it. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
I mean, before I get to that, I just want to say, you know, I've been watching the league since its inception, and I honestly want to see some optimism. I know the feeling, I know the downsides. I'm hoping Fearless won't be so bad. It's a best of 3 format, so maybe the games won't get too bad. But in terms of shout outs, shout out to you, Travis. Shout out to Cubby. You know what? This will be funny. Shout out to David Shynock out there. And that's all I got.
You won't see it. He's streaming right now, so you'll have to clip that and send it to him.
Is he streaming? He's streaming against Hotline League.
Yeah, he's trying to outclimb Ludwig. You know.
Yeah, it currently says
he's moved on from you, Travis. He's got to go
chasing bigger
Ludwig
fish.
Now.
Yeah.
What a clout chaser, you know? It's just like who can be my next target? It's just who's got the bigger following. Soon he'll move on from Ludwig to I don't know. Who's a big person?
I show speed.
Kaisenet? Yeah. I show speed. Yeah. All these Zoomer content creators, I don't really know.
He's going to do Mothiathon 3 himself.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. We got time for one more caller. We might end a little early tonight, actually, but it's fine because it's a quieter week. Thank you to Jaffe58. I did shout you out, but just a double shout out. Director Donut, thanks again. Yo, sir, thank you for the 26 months. Really appreciate it. If you're watching over on Twitch right now, you can hover your cursor over the screen and you'll see a little sub box come up and let you know if you have a sub. Also, if you are interested, I have more and more, I think similar to Riot, more and more I'm relying on just these kind of like premium memberships, direct viewer stuff. And one of the things that was pretty successful for me last year, not like massive, but was the membership system over on YouTube, where you can become a member on YouTube for $3, a little bit more if you want, but you can start. It starts at $3. You can watch videos. I did a video, and look, I don't bring up my checkbook or anything like that, but I do have a video over there called "How Much Money I Make." It's a every month we have a voted fan topic, or viewer topic, I should say, and people wanted to have me go over TGI finances. So we talked a little bit about sponsorships and how they've changed over the years for me and all that type of stuff. So they're just sort of longer, half-hour-long yap sessions of me talking about something. We did one about running Yahoo eSports, about making friendships and relationships in the esports space and League of Legends and all that stuff. So a lot of different stuff. But all that is available right now if you just go become a member over on YouTube. Speaking of members on YouTube, we have a YouTube member, and it's leaderjoe. Leaderjoe, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take is the LTA needs to create more content focused on bringing in newer fans.
All right, so this is kind of similar to what we had from Mihir, but I think you're going to probably take it in a different direction, yeah?
I am. I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit how I became a fan of the LCS. I didn't start watching until the 2018 spring split. And one of the things that sort of brought me in was these narratives that were outside of the game, right? I didn't really even at the time play the game. I didn't know much about League of Legends. So one of the things that I watched was, what was it? The Team Liquid Breaking Point. I just was scrolling on YouTube, saw that, and it just kind of lit a fire into me. Like, okay, I need to like learn everything I possibly can about this because it is insanely interesting, right? And a lot of, the past narratives that the league had were sort of driven by the teams themselves. And I feel like with the current state of NA League, I feel like the LTA needs to kind of take over sort of telling those stories and pushing the narrative along and sort of take that responsibility off the teams. For example, the NFL has that HBO series where they're going behind the scenes talking about their teams in this as the season's going along, right? I forget what that's called.
Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks, right?
Yeah.
And I just feel like right now, I mean, we're moving into, like you said, something that sort of is a new ground for North American League. Why not have a story about a CBLOL team that is made for North American audiences and vice versa, right? Why not make content focused on those two fan bases, but for the other region, right? I don't. There's just so many things I feel like they could do to sort of tell stories and create narratives, which I feel like helps bring in new fans that are not really super crazy about the game itself.
What do you think of the NLC team streaming all their scrims right now? Do you like that?
I feel like I haven't really seen any of it, right? I feel like I'm pretty tuned in. I follow a lot of, accounts on Twitter, and I mostly am, I'll say I am a double A fan. That was a big reason why I continued to watch the LCS back then. But I did decide to pick a team, and I picked 100 Thieves, which has not turned out to be great. I've been a 100 Thieves fan. I mean, I've got things on my walls. I've been to live events cheering on 100 Thieves.
Mm-hmm.
Not working out so well to be a 100 Thieves fan nowadays, but I just feel like someone has to take the reins and moving a narrative, and it has to be, I feel like, the league itself. Because I feel like that's what I mean, how is someone like you? Everyone's saying, okay, Bjergsen is out of the league, and that's why viewership's down. Why can't we tell stories about Bjergsen? He just sort of disappeared into, wherever, and there should be just stories told about his, last season or, his last few games. I remember when he played for when he was playing for 100 Thieves, and the split prior, he had lost in the summer final, spring final? I think it was a spring final or spring playoff, sorry, to 100 Thieves with that back door. I think, they were like fighting for Drake or something, and then who was it? Abadage backdoored, ended the game. I mean, that was a huge moment. And then the next split, he's playing for that team. I don't know. I just feel like narratives is what's going to bring in new fans, and there's not really a lot of narratives and stories being told.
I also think to bounce off your point, narratives that are told and also passionate storytellers, like the people telling the stories, if they truly care and really have passion for it, that's what got me into the league. Talking about like how did you first get involved or interested in esports? I think that I've always felt that passion is contagious, fandom is contagious, and if you hang around people that are very passionate, hang around people that have a lot of fandom for what they're talking about, you're going to connect with that a lot more. So I think that it's in a way, I encourage the people on the broadcast to talk about what they are fans about, to talk about what they want to talk about. And I don't know if there's also been a sentiment pushing back that like, oh, we need to let not I was gonna say expired, let the retired pros go because they're not in the league anymore. We need to build up the new pros. And I think that there has been a resurgence of fandom for like, let's tell new stories. Let's tell the stories of the Masus coming in. Like, he got a Drive episode about him this year. He was in the Worlds video. Like, I think that there's a lot of cool success stories there, and I actually like going more in that direction. So I agree with you and disagree with you in a way, but the agreement is that, connect on fandom, connect on passion, because if the people telling the stories are passionate about it, then I'm going to care more, and I'm going to assume the audience will pick up on that more.
Right. And another thing I wanted to bring up was sort of a big part of the scene and what drives people's feelings about it are streamers right now. And the sentiment for North American League of Legends with, the current popular streamers is pretty negative. And I think if they took the reins and sort of started telling their own stories, and created a positive sentiment around their league, I mean, it just catch on to be contagious.
I push back against that a wee bit because I saw multiple people saying that this was the best year of gameplay that they've seen from the LCS. Like even before the international worlds where we did well. And I would agree. I actually thought that the game quality, maybe it helped that LEC was a bit messy and were playing their own metas, but I thought that this was one, I was saying going into Worlds, I thought this was the two best teams that we sent from 2014, and frankly, it's the best that we've done at Worlds since 2014 even. So I would kind of agree. I think that there is positive sentiment there. The one thing I'll push back about is, look, I love Hard Knocks. I will be watching that on Tuesday when the last episode comes out for the in-season one. I've been staying up to date. It's a great show that gives good behind-the-scenes peeks at what teams are going through in the season. I think that there is a push for teams to do more content, which I will say, the NLC teams streaming everything, props to them. Obviously, it's a big part of their income. I think it's personally batshit crazy to do that. If you're trying to compete, and those guys are going to try and compete at the highest level with everything being public, that's going to make it really hard for them to win. But obviously, their main incentive is content and competing at the highest level, and they're going to do content while doing that. More power to them for trying it. But I hope that this means that we get more teams that are willing to give more behind-the-scenes peeks, not care as much about strategy or leaks, and just want to put out good content. But stuff like Breaking Points, all the teams tried to copy that and then stopped it because they weren't actually willing to show anything that is truly emotional. And so fans didn't invested in it. It was also just a giant lift for the teams. So when they weren't seeing the numbers that they needed, that they just stopped doing it. And so I think that you have to find ways to do this in short form that will engage a younger audience, which is not my style. I like the articles that Kelsey and Emily Rand used to write. I would read what Fionn would write. I actually really miss that form of storytelling because you would get great moments and stories out of these people that lived and breathed the scene, sitting down with them and talking to them. But you need to match that kind of energy with the form that is most popular today.
Cubby,
and that is short form.
You've referenced the NLC stuff a couple times, but I think there's probably some LCS fans, now LTA North fans, who are not familiar. Do you want to explain what's going on there?
Yeah, so it really started with Cadril and Los Ratones, or Ratones, however you pronounce it. His team of 5, which features a rookie jungler and 4 pretty well-known streamers or pros that have decided to play on this team. And as a part of it, they're streaming every scrim, every game from their perspective. They're going to broadcast everything. And with Cadril also co-streaming his team's games. And other teams in the league have signed up to do the same, including Don Jake's team, Rudy eSports, that Dom chips in with. I think Yamato is working with that team or another team that's going to do the same thing. There's just a giant push to make pretty much that league, just everything is going to be streamed behind the scenes, including the games. And I think it's going to lead to a lot of people watching those games. That's going to be huge for that league. So I think from a broadcast money content perspective, it's great for the league itself. It puts those teams at a disadvantage streaming everything that they do, but also it gives fans a great amount of insight where they can tune into this. And again, give a ton of props to the teams, players, and coaches signing up to do this, because I can't imagine being live 24/7. Like that's for me. Again, I think that's like competing is a huge like you got to sign up mentally to compete, and that's a huge lift to do if you're going to do it with a team, and then to have all that be public, like Jesus. I mean, I can't imagine. I think it's going to be great moments and content, but I can't imagine signing up for that. So again, props to them for doing it, but. I think a lot of people are looking to engage with that because it's new, it's fresh, and it's a lot of people that are already popular. But yeah,
and that's also always been a pushback is like getting players to do content. I know has been an excuse given around for as to why we don't see as much. I don't know about you, Cubby. I feel like we didn't have difficulty getting NACL players to do a lot of content. Like sometimes it was difficult scheduling, but did you ever have players that were like, no, I don't want to do stuff? And if so, was that like the majority?
Dude, I get that with LCS. Like, I mean, I would love to have a pro player on every episode of Hotline League, but you reach out to them, and I mean, I reached out to a pro for this episode, and they weren't feeling up for it, and I don't expect every pro player to like jump at the opportunity or anything like that. And I'm sure, and maybe this pro player had like a very reasonable decision for doing that, but it starts to become very discouraging where I stop trying to get pro players on because so many people are like, oh, my refrigerator's running tonight, I have to go catch it. And then
I mean, ask some LTA South players to come on, Travis. The English people, I guarantee you they'd be in.
Yeah, probably. And that would get the Brazilian viewers on.
I'd say 5 to 10% of players in NACL just weren't interested in content. We figured that out pretty soon, so we just stopped asking them. But we never really had issues getting people. I know LCS, they have more things in their schedule and sponsor demands as well as more content they do with their teams. But no, if I wanted to do a project, I might have to ask different people because some would be unavailable, but I was always able to find people to do it.
So I think we have a new generation of players coming in is the point I was getting at that are more willing to do that. Like I just did a content piece with 100 Thieves last week. I think that it won't be coming out for a couple of weeks here, but hopefully they don't mind that I just dropped that. But Sniper was on it, and he was having a blast, and he was like super enthused and like really engaged in the content and having a great time. So I think that like players like Masu, players like Sniper that are really like young players, fresh names coming into the scene are more willing to do stuff. Like Masu, I give him major props for being on the a guest on the desk for an NACL finals. And his reasoning was, I talked to him, he was like, I'm super nervous, but I know that if I'm going to make LCS, I need to be more comfortable on camera and I need to be able to do this. So like, I'm going to practice here basically. And I was like, that's absolutely the correct mentality to have as a player is like, even just being on camera, being on a desk is still part of practice for your job.
Yeah. No, I think that's all very fair. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much to our caller here, leaderjoe, for calling in. I really hope that we see more of these types of narratives that you mentioned going forward, because I think that it is fair that we kind of pivoted from there were too many of them and everybody's doing these types of shows to now nobody ever does anything. Right. And so it would be kind of cool to just at least get something. Hopefully some of these pro players stick, because I think that was one of the bigger issues was getting them to stick around.
Well, don't worry. There's no money now, so teams actually can't even afford to do turnover. And so all the players that aren't getting paid enough for what they used to, they already left. So I think lower turnovers here, Travis. You got your wish.
We're trying to stay positive. Hey, leaderjoe, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here?
No, just shout out you guys. Shout out my buddy Gustavo who got me into the league, and thanks for letting me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, later.
All right, folks, that is the show. I really appreciate this. Cubby and I were talking a little bit beforehand, and we were trying to figure out if we even wanted to do a show tonight. I think the answer was we both wanted to, but there was a little bit of nervousness on like, is there going to be enough to talk about, especially because even next week we still won't be starting the LTA stuff. So really happy that we were able to grab Kangas and you were able to come on and kind of help us still have some good conversations about things to look forward for in 2025.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. I know I would also rather a player be on. I just want that to be
No. I think this player in particular made a lot of sense because of I don't want to get into reasons without people
I wanted Broad off the game, dear, so I got my wish.
Yeah, exactly. But reach out to Sniper. I bet you a gifted sub that's Sniper if you ask him that he'll be on the next episode. And if he's not, then I'll gift a sub in that episode. There we go.
All right. Well, I don't want to put him on blast, so we'll figure it out. But maybe if you gift a sub on the next episode, maybe people can figure it out. Cubby,
I think they'll see if he's on or not.
Yeah. Well, Cubby, anything that you want to shout out here at the end?
No. Shout out to all you for coming back and keeping up with Hotline League for the new year. Excited to see what the next year has in store for all of us. It's going to be, as Travis said, it's kind of wild to think, like, when Travis says it's probably the biggest change he's experienced, but I mean, format wise, and probably besides franchising, I didn't really think of it in that light, but I agree. And I know that, not everything in this episode was positive, but I'm still hopeful and hope we find more ways to engage fans, get new fans, and continue to push the esport that I love. So excited for the new year, and thanks for everyone that tuned in today after the break, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. Kangas, how about you? Anything you want to shout out?
I owe this to a friend of mine because he requested it. Shout out to Nick Ray, everybody. There we go. Does content over for Riot eSports on their socials. Shout out Nick Ray.
Anything else?
No, I think I'm contractually obligated to only do that. Otherwise, just
how much LP did you get doing with him? Was that a part of the deal?
My win rate with that man is trash. I gotta say,
okay.
I have been doing all right on my own, and then anytime we do it, and it's not for his fault. Like, he's doing great, but I just play worse when I'm in game with him.
He's a little higher elo. That's okay.
Well, actually, he's lower than me right now, but he's definitely a better player than I am. That's for sure.
Got his ass. Yeah.
For me, I want to say thanks everybody for supporting my content and for the show and everything. It's been really cool to see folks show up, sub, and just be here on a very quiet evening of League of Legends conversation. But always great to see everybody in the chat, and the mainstays always come through, and it's really fun to see y'all. So thanks, folks. Also, if you are in LA, please stay safe over the next couple of days. The National Weather Service, I don't know how many of you have heard about this, has been issuing crazy alerts being like, oh no, the wind is coming and it's going to be like no wind before. So
I'm playing golf at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
That's tomorrow?
Yeah, it might get interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. You're going to lose a lot of golf balls, I feel like, as they fly.
Try and line up so the wind's going down course so you can really hit.
Yeah, you'll set records.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I don't know when it's supposed to start tomorrow, but I know it's supposed to start, and they're saying to expect power outages and all this kind of crazy stuff as trees go falling and power lines go crazy and all this
My question is, how do we know? Like, what is the wind coming from far enough away that we've been able to calculate it?
It's part of the jet stream, yeah. The jet stream's moving on.
Okay, well, maybe that was simpler than I thought. I don't know how weather works.
Go ask ChatGPT. It'll explain it.
A true LA resident doesn't need to know how weather works.
I mean, yesterday, it was the final day of the holiday break for me and Kobe, and we just had the doors and windows open of the apartment, and we're just letting 74-degree weather just breeze on through the rooms, and I'm just sitting there being like, I really do like living here. It's not too bad. So,
yeah, I was back in Minnesota for the holidays, and it's much colder in other places.
Drew was telling me about how he was like, I'm glad I come back here because it reminds me of things I appreciate about Los Angeles. So, thanks everybody. We will catch you next week for another episode of Hotline League. See ya, and as we continue our journey through 2025.